Are you or someone you know experiencing signs of dementia? Dementia affects our community in multiple ways, and too often we suffer in silence. Caribbean Vibrations TV and Alzheimer's Society of Ontario presents a multi-part series discussing dementia in the Afro-Caribbean community. Moderator Ngozi Iroanyah leads an in-depth discussion with industry experts, caregivers, and healthcare professionals as they share knowledge and insights while highlighting the resources available to support families.
If you or someone that you know is experiencing signs of dementia, please visit the Alzheimer Society of Ontario's First Link program. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Dementia in the Black Community, put on together in partnership with Caribbean Vibrations and the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. We would like to say to everyone as well, if you or you think someone might be experiencing signs of dementia, please contact the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario through the First Link program. The program is designed to support people on the dementia journey at all stages, but especially for those who think they might be experiencing some symptom at the early stages. For this part of the segment, we're actually going to be talking now about the caregiving journey. For those of us in our community, caregiving can be a rewarding but still arduous experience. And for that discussion, we have two of our wonderful panelists here, Dr. Ingrid Waldron and Dr. Karen Leeds, to talk about their experiences and their insights. Dr. Ingrid Waldron is a professor and Hope Chair at the Global Peace and Social Justice Program at Massey University. And Dr. Karen Leeds is an Alzheimer's expert and mental health practitioner as well, and an author as well. They're both actually authors and directors of some documentaries, which we'll get into later on. But before we get into that, let's talk about caregiving and the dementia journey within our community. Both of you have had parents who have had dementia, and both of you took care of them at home as well. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and what are some of the challenges and some of the successes you've had while caregiving for your loved one at home? I'll start with you, Dr. Waldron.
Sure. My mother was diagnosed in 2016. And in 2019, her caregiver in Ottawa, when she was living in Ottawa, suggested she move to Halifax, where I was living, so that I can take care of her. I think the caregiver just thought I could do it. And I said yes. The challenge is just seeing somebody that you love, somebody like my mother, who was extremely vivacious, kind of deteriorate in front of your eyes. I would say it was gradual, but she was walking when she came to live with me. She was speaking coherently, and she understood everything I was saying. And then I started to notice that speaking on the phone was difficult. Her caregiver from Ottawa wanted to speak with her every now and then, and she wasn't able to really coherently speak. She started falling, which I didn't understand that may have been at that time maybe a symptom of dementia. She just fell. One time when we were coming back from the mall, she had only a bag of earrings, so nothing heavy, and she fell, and she started falling on elevators, etc. One thing that was really terrifying for me was that I was in my room and she was in the bathroom taking a shower, and I heard a scream, and she fell backwards in the tub and hit her head. Had to take her to emergency, and there was bleeding in her brain, which actually continued until her death, but it got smaller. So I started to see my mother, who I loved, deteriorate in front of my eyes, and just really strange behavior. I mean, perhaps typical for dementia, but I always say that when dementia is shown on television or in pop culture, it's depicted in pop culture or movies, it's the memory loss that tends to be focused on, and the wandering. Your loved one wandering outside the door, and then they're lost and you try to find them. It's that as well. But there's so many things that I saw that I wasn't prepared for, just behavior that I couldn't understand. And at that time, I remember Google was my best friend. Anytime she would do something that was strange or I didn't understand, I would go onto Google and try to figure it out. One of the things I noticed too was a lot of paranoia. She thought that everybody was stealing from her. People were stealing her money. The caregiver in Ottawa stole her white sweater. And then I opened up the closet and there was the white sweater. I said, "Mom, sweater's here." That was a really scary time because you don't know what people would believe, and people might think this person, a friend, was stealing, right? So I went to Google and I noticed that paranoia was a symptom of dementia. So It was heartbreaking, really difficult, and I was doing this caregiving on my own with, with help, of course, with professional help, paid and unpaid help, which was really helpful for me. I mean, it was extremely stressful in the beginning because I didn't know what to do, and I was constantly going to Google, but having PSWs come to my home and help out was extremely helpful. In terms of the benefits, I think you said
Some successes, some things that went well.
It's hard to think of anything that went well because it was just gradual deterioration. I would say the benefits, I guess, for me are emotional. The ability to help my mother.
To be there for
to
her.
be there for her. The fact that I had, more so than my sisters, I had the setup. I had the right type of job. I'm a professor. In the fall, I teach once a week. The rest of the time, I'm at home. I can watch what the PSWs are doing. I'm there for her. I had the financial ability to hire those PSWs and the supports that I got. I was financially able to do that. So I should say that my mother passed away December of last year. It was sudden and shocking, but I had the emotion to deal with it. Since I was young, I wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I always had deep empathy for people since I was a child. I felt people's pain. So I felt I was kind of the perfect person to do this because I had the patience with her. So for me, the benefit was more about the thrill of being able to support my mother, who was there for me as a child, who bathed and clothed me and housed me and fed me. This was not an obligation. I didn't feel it was an obligation. I felt this is something everyone should do if they have a good relationship with their mother, and I did. My mother was a wonderful mother, nurturing and supportive, and this is the least I can do. And that gave me so much pleasure and happiness to know that I can do it, and I could do it without too many challenges, financial challenges, all the other challenges. I was able to do it kind of freely. And to have her in my home, I just love that. I can be there, I can watch what was happening. I could be on call in many ways. But the journey, it was truly a journey, was heartbreaking. And to see her end up bedbound, that was really heartbreaking. My mother was vivacious, as I said, loved to shop, loved to go to the Bay. The Bay was her store.
We would have had a great time, she and I.
We would have been going out. She was always in the Bay. She was always in the Bay. And then to see her not being able to walk, that happened when she came out of the hospital, and they said that to me. They said she's not going to be able to walk again. I even had a physiotherapist come in to try to work with her, and it just wasn't working. So she wasn't able to get out of a bed. Everything was done in her bed. We fed her in her bed. We bathed her. We washed her hair in the bed. We changed her in her bed. And that, we don't know what people with Alzheimer's think about their situation, particularly when they're late stage, as my mother was. But that would have broken her heart if she realized it. I don't know. That this is what she's come to. But I kept on, and I actually never cried, surprisingly. I said it's really important for me to be strong for her and to also be strong for my sisters. When I would relay different, all the times she had to go to the hospital, I had to phone my sisters and tell them, and I felt it was really important to be strong. I remember when the caregiver in Ottawa said, I think she should come and stay with you. She just thought I was a person. And I remember taking a deep breath, and I said, okay, this is going to be a journey. But I'm going to be strong, and I'm going to try my best. I'm going to do it. So, what a pleasure it was to be able to do it.
That's beautiful. I know that caregiving can be an experience that can enrich your life, and it can also take from your life, right? Especially when you have this prolonged kind of journey that you're on, and all the turns and the changes that happen along the journey, some that you're not prepared for at all. Some that you might even know might be coming. You're never always fully prepared with it. And I know that you took care of your mom at home as well. And I think it was longer than
20 years.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
I was just saying before I got on this panel that I just wanted, and I said that to you, like, can I be honest?
This is for all of us. This is for our
Because
community.
I feel in these situations, people want you to sanitize the experience, and this disease is savage. And I don't know why I'm emotional.
It's okay, honey. It's okay.
My mom was 57 years old, and I had,
When she got diagnosed.
when she was diagnosed, she came up from Trinidad to help me with my newborn. She's a registered nurse at the time. And then I noticed she wasn't acting the same. So we went to the doctor, and that was the diagnosis. And this was before a caregiver was even a name. This was 2000, the year 2000. So that name didn't exist, caregiver. There was no information at that time on Alzheimer's, what this was. I didn't even know what it was. And like Ingrid, I Googled it, and I saw no cure and death. That's all I saw that stood out. And then 14 months later, my dad had a massive heart attack, and he died. And my mom came to live with me full time. So that was my experience. So besides being a caregiver and this, lovely, and I do think it is at times could be rewarding, but that wasn't my experience as a sandwich generation caregiver, which is the term coined when you're looking after your own child and your parent, and the guilt you feel by, do I spend time with my mom who needs me or my son who needs me? And it's never enough. You're torn between two spots constantly. And you become not only a daughter, you become their parent, you become an advocate, and you try to navigate a health system that sees through you, not at you. And then your home becomes a long-term care facility. Mm. You give up your privacy because it's doctors, nurses, it's PSWs, and like Ingrid too, I worked, so I had to hire private care. So financially, you're subsidizing the care, because unless you can afford 24-hour care, which is prohibitive, you are going to step up and supplement those hours. And nobody talks to you about the incontinence. Nobody wants to talk. We want to kind of like romanticize that, they just forget things, and they just ask you things over and over. Well, my mom had aphasia, and then she lost her voice completely. So I don't even remember what my mom's voice sounds like. I wish she would ask me something over and over, but that went very quickly. And then the other stuff, if I can't walk, and then palliative care, nobody talks about that. No. So forget just to live the day-to-day. And remember, this is a 20-year journey. So by the time she's bedridden, and that was 5 years, she stayed 5 years with zero quality of life, and you're just watching day by day. So tentatively for 5 years, I never knew if today was going to be the day. So like I used to be on a grid because I couldn't go too far just in case I got the call. Mm-hmm. So that's how I lived my life for 5 years. Tentative. Everything was tentative. I don't know. Couldn't go anywhere because I don't know. It could be today. And then that would be more guilt if I wasn't at home. And then the day came, and then at least I was there. So that was the day. And so my son literally grew up with his grandmother. That's all he knows. Mm-hmm. And I was just saying, like, the other day he got his master's from McMaster, and we had a surprise party for him, and his friends didn't even know that his grandmother had Alzheimer's. Mm. And he said because he didn't want people to feel sorry for him. And that's so sad. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely so sad, and it's so distressing, because I know within our community a lot of people suffer in silence, and they suffer alone as caregivers. I've heard from so many people. My loved one has dementia, my husband, my mom, my dad. Do you tell anybody? Anybody at church, at the local market? No one knows.
And without having the background or the means, right? A lot of people are just they're just surviving.
Well, a lot of people, and this is the other part nobody wants to say, like, nobody helps. Like, the family's like, ding, like, it's gone. Like, it's just, you're left alone. And it is isolating.
It is.
And we talk about so much about the patient. It's so patient focused. Yet the patient can't exist without the caregiver. Because the caregiver takes on the whole role. And so, like, even when I did my dissertation, like I did my research on caregivers, and it's all of them suffered some health after their parent passed on because they neglected their health. So now they have health concerns.
And
because
the studies indicate that they are at high risk for
Right.
dementia
themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
if you're a caregiver.
right.
Yeah.
So she's saying that if you're a caregiver for someone with dementia, you have an increased risk factor for getting dementia yourself after prolonged exposure to stress, lack of sleep, poor diet, poor attention to your own health, etc. So something that we have to watch out for within our community where we already are additionally burdened with several factors of social determinants of health. When we talk about the impact of dementia on people living with dementia, it's also the family and it's also the community. And there's various ways that it impacts people. People can have very different experiences and very different outlooks on the experience. And we don't talk about
Yeah,
the reality
talk
of
about that.
dementia. Dementia is not,
And no one,
Dementia.
why is it that no one talks about the incontinence?
yeah.
Because that is the worst.
Yeah.
But nobody, it's like, shh, nobody talks about it.
Well, we don't talk about dementia. It's stigmatized so much in society. I think because of the fact that it affects older people.
Yep.
And older people at that point, usefulness to society, that sort of thing. And then within our own community, it's even more so. It's mental health. It's older people. Shh, you don't talk about it. You don't want to curse anybody, so you sweep it under the rug, and everybody suffers more. Which is why these conversations are even that much more important.
And there's this idea that is punitive as well.
Yes.
That there's evil spirits who are punishing
Oh,
you.
yeah.
For
It's a
just like with
curse.
mental illness, that you're doing something
Something
wrong
wrong,
in your family,
yeah.
so you need to be punished.
When my father had dementia, and when he was diagnosed, a lot of people called us, even from Nigeria, to say, "What did your father do? It's generational curses." And because I knew at that point, I already knew sort of what was happening, I was able to say, "Well, let's get some medical professionals weighing in on this," which led us to an early diagnosis, which got him on the right treatments, which allowed us to have him for 18 years. But there's a cultural stigma, religious stigma. People had said to me, "Dementia, your father, that's a white man's disease. What does your father have to do with that? It was just because he came to Canada. If he was back home, he wouldn't have dementia." And all of these fantastical ideas around it, which can deter people from getting support and help and make them feel shame, right? Like, I felt shame when he got diagnosed. I felt like I don't want to tell anybody. I'm just going to do it on my own. And that's detrimental to, it was to him and for us who was caring for him. But in your caregiving experience, what were some difficulties that you may have found because of the community, because of our community, either from society, healthcare systems, or our own community? What did you find?
I found it would have been great to find an expert who was a person of color or who was Black, who would understand, I guess, a cultural context of dementia for my mother and for people of Caribbean or African background who may have grown up with that stigma. But I think for Black people, having day programs that are perhaps culturally responsive, that reflect our culture, making perhaps a person with dementia feel comfortable, having more representation in terms of healthcare providers and doctors who may have similar expertise as the white doctor, but can understand that kind of cultural piece, I think is important. And of course, having PSWs as well who have the expertise, but also have that cultural piece is always, people don't often understand why you need that cultural piece. It's just a feeling of comfort. It's really hard to explain or put into words. You want them to have experience, of course, and a white physician or a white healthcare professional would have the same expertise, but there's a little extra when you're from the same culture and you understand that person and you understand their belief systems. There are belief systems that in the Caribbean we have around dementia that somebody who is from your culture will understand. So being able to navigate that with that patient because you have a similar culture, I think is really helpful. So I didn't really find any of that either when I lived in Halifax or currently in Ontario.
One thing about being a caregiver is you're also an advocate. You're fighting for
Constantly.
the dignity, the safety of your loved one with dementia. You're fighting with the healthcare system, with your own family, your community, but you're constantly on this perched up on the edge. I'm going to help, I have to help. And that in itself can be very, very PTSD. It can be very rewarding in some cases, but also very exhausting and scary, right? A healthcare system that doesn't know you, that doesn't see you as a caregiver, as a Black person.
At the very beginning, I had to have, and I know it's not called that, but at CCAC at the time it was called that. I had to have like the director of the agency that they were sending the PSWs, CCAC director in my living room to talk about like dignity, like, it just kept going on and on. So no matter what aspect of care, you're constantly feeding people and giving them information, and it's like, we're in the opposite seat. Like you're supposed to be doing this for me, and yet I'm doing this for you.
Yes, and it's a double whammy because people with dementia don't get the care that they need. People with dementia aren't advocated enough for. And then from a cultural perspective, we have that double whammy, right? And so you have to advocate as much as you can, as hard as you can, because it is a system, unfortunately, that is still slow to develop around dementia care pathways itself, and then combined with the challenges that we have inherent to our community, not within it, but to our community. We have to do that double work. And this is where I say knowledge is power, and this is where
We
I
have to
say...
stop the stigma of it.
Yes.
Like, it is what it is.
It is,
So
yes.
we need to stop that stigma.
And this conversation helps. I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you both
Thanks for having me.
your honesty and your openness to talk with us about your caregiving experiences and your journey.
Thanks for making me cry, Oprah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back with talking about social services, long-term care, end-of-life planning, and research. Stay tuned.
Thanks for watching Caribbean Vibrations. Follow us on social media at CaribVibe or visit our website, CaribbeanVibrationsTV.com. I'm your host and guide, Alan, and we'll see you next time on Caribbean Vibrations.